Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stream. My name's Matt Bailey, and I'm joined with our Cellar Master again, Andrew Durbidge.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see you.
Good to see you indeed.
You're joined by me, and I'm joined by the cask strength, double distilled, and sherry matured Matt Bailey.
Sherry matured.
Sherry matured.
Yeah. I'm more of a refill bourbon guy.
Is that? Yeah. Well, you hide it well.
Thank you so much. Wow, what a compliment.
Yeah.
How are we all this evening? Great. Thank you for joining us. Tonight is a live stream with the tasting box, the membership box, the membership kit, the green box. For those of you who got the email link yesterday, I hope you've tuned in. You can watch this live right now on YouTube, on Facebook page. The best place to watch it is on, of course, the group. Andrew and I are both going to be taking your questions and comments tonight as we go through. And Seamus is the first off the rank by saying he's definitely a Virgin Oak finish. Seamus, I take great offense to that. As always. No, I would definitely not be a Virgin Oak finish. Virgin Oak is not a finish and should not be used.
Ooh.
I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. Because there are some great Virgin Oak whiskies, including ones we've bottled at Society. Team refill straight out of the gate, says Rob Akers. That's entirely true. Thank you so much, Rob.
Mark T, good to see you. Thanks for joining in.
You know what? Tonight is about tasting through the membership kit. What I wanted to talk through with Andrew tonight was just about some of the back to basics, the fundamentals of what it means to have this kit, where you can sort of start off with it. And we'll talk a bit about each distillery as well as we go along, but the focus is really around flavour tonight. And are we going to mention distillery names, or we're just going to hint at it with some of the photos?
I like playing the game.
Okay, we're going to play the game. We're not going to mention distillery names because that's not what the Society's about.
Yep.
But we are going to show some photos of the distillery. And I know
it's possible that the distillery name may be visible.
It may be visible in one or two of the photos. I'm not really sure. We'll find out the hard way. We've got our water jug. We've got our drinking water. We've got our 3 glasses. I hope your setup is looking cool at home. Post a photo of your setup and the best looking setup I'm going to send a prize to. It's quite a good prize. It's valued at $99. You're going to get sent that. And interesting questions are up for prizes as well tonight. Might send some samples out your way.
And there were some early entries as well. Some people sending some fantastic shots. Darren in particular, saw yours earlier. Well done, well played.
Yeah, very well played.
Yeah, taking it seriously.
Yeah, taking it seriously, which is really cool. Like if you're at home, and I'm going to do a big shout out right now at the beginning to our friends, colleagues, family, everyone down in Victoria.
Indeed.
It's tough down there at the moment, and I have no idea what it's like. We've all been through that first wave. We're all dreading the second. But Victoria seems to be in the grip of it right now. So good luck to you all. And we're thinking of you, and we'll raise a dram for you tonight.
Indeed. Or 3. Even.
Or 3. We'll raise all 3 for you, Victoria. That's just for you. Big shout out to Darren Howie. Big crowd in Cairns tonight. Good stuff, Darren. I own a good one. Matthew Adams. Great. Everyone tuning in. Thank you so much. All right, shall we kick off?
Shall we? So look, we had as always, we have a bit of a chat beforehand to work out what we think is the optimum tasting order. And so what we reckon is we're going to start with 48.100, moving on to 35.213 if you want to get your things set up at home there, and we'll bring it home with 66.121. So the 48.100 will be first cab off the rank.
Absolutely.
So,
okay. Shall we?
We shall.
Now, the cool thing about this tasting, as we mentioned in the outturn as well, is that these are 100ml bottles. It says 10 cl, which is UK measurement of 100 mils.
It's delightfully European.
Delightful, continentally even. And this is the 100 mils each. Now, that's a good big 3 drams, or like 4 or 5 smaller drams. So this is a really nice way for you to actually introduce other people into the Society. Save a bit for now, save a bit for later. Have a bit now, save a bit for later, and share it around. I'll open it, but Andrew, would you like to do the honors?
Well done. Well cracked. Nice colour too. Don't get me wrong, I love the Society's green bottles, but sometimes it is nice to look at a whiskey and just see the bottle straight away and go, yep, that's got colour. That's what it is, yeah. I'm a big believer that you never pour another man's dram. So.
Okay. I'm going to just bring up I'll bring up a photo just in a moment for all of us to see. I'll keep us on screen here. Here's the pack, of course, as we're talking about, the green packs that are in front of us right now. Hi, Alan Timmerman. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're well. And 3 cheers from Matthew Adams here. Good stuff, mate.
Can I ask a technical question?
Yeah, sure.
Just to help the night go a bit smoother. This isn't very professional of us, but I'm not seeing any of those comments come up over here. I'm still back there. Will they just appear sooner or later?
Well, some are going to be on the page. They're all just combined there.
Right. Okay. So this is just what we're seeing on the group.
The group, yeah, but the group always gets the more activity. And by the way, if you're watching tonight, we recommend watching on the Facebook group. That's Scotch Malt Whisky Society Australia group. Of course, you can watch us on YouTube, and we've got a lot of members who don't use Facebook, so that's a really good way for you to connect with us as well. But keep that up because that's where I think where the bulk of the action is going to come from.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Never pour another man's dram.
No. We're both laughing at the same thing right now, but anyway. All right, lovely. Fantastic. So, together.
Now, this distillery, and I've started off on the right foot here. So,
yes.
This distillery, which I'm going to show here, I couldn't tell you what the name of the distillery is. I honestly have no idea. I'm sorry. I hope that doesn't give it away.
Amazing sign just out the front.
Isn't that great? Yeah. Isn't that great distillery? It's got the Inverhouse Distillers right there. Isn't that very cool?
Indeed.
Now, this distillery itself is actually quite a meaty spirit. I always find this distillery to be quite not too dissimilar to some ways than we find Mortlach.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
In fact, there are a few words that are associated with this distillery. Old-fashioned, traditional, old school, all those things. And we can talk about the nitty-gritty about that if you like. I dropped into this distillery in 2014 and had a good look around the place. I met the manager there and they showed me around. And it really is this wonderful old distillery. Now, actually, I was there at the time and they were 2 months away from starting a modernisation process, and they're about to get rid of a whole stack of old kit and put some new stuff in. So it's changed a little bit since I was there 6 years ago. Just in the production methods, and basically they were putting in a new mash tun and some other things at the control centre to help automate things a bit better. But what struck me, and I don't know if it's going to come out in some of the photos that you're going to show our viewers tonight, but you drive up to this place. Oh, there you go. That's the old one. So that was being replaced just after I got there. You turn up and you really get a sense it was one of those distilleries where a guy found some space, built a distillery, and then the village formed around it. And what was typical for the time, and this distillery was built in, I'm going to say 1824, there or thereabouts. It was one of the very first distilleries to be established after the Excise Act came in 1823.
Around the same time as Glenlivet.
So I believe it was 1824. Yeah. And they would establish the distillery, and then all of a sudden you needed homes for your workers. And villages would pop up around the distilleries. And so when you go there today, there's still the distillery, and we've seen a few pics of it from the outside. And then just, 75, 80 metres away, you see these tiny little cottages that would have been the original housing for, the warehousemen and the guys doing the brewing and the distillers and all the rest of it. Back when distilleries had large workforces, what you need to appreciate now is that most distilleries are operated by 1 to 2 people in terms of the production. You might have one guy doing the brewing, and then you'll have another guy at a control centre who's actually doing the distillations and feeding things this way and that way. And then you'll have warehouse staff as well. But in terms of most production houses will have one person on shift for 8 hours. And for the distilleries that are going 24 hours a day, there's 3 8-hour shifts. But just fantastic seeing this real sense of community around a distillery.
That's a really good point. I mean, that community still exists in terms of outside the distillery in a lot of these areas. But the distillery itself, I mean, the cottages are all either knocked down or just sort of relics of a time gone.
Yeah.
We'll see that with actually one of the other whiskies we're tasting tonight, which is a marvelous photograph.
And I won't say it's off the beaten track, but you go down or up, depending which way you're going, the main road that goes through Speyside, and this is just off to the side. It's not open to the public. There's no visitor centre. There's a tiny little sign that's actually assigned to the village as opposed to the distillery, tucked away in this beautifully scenic spot. I want to say, I should have probably checked this before we started, but it's about a 15-minute drive down the road from the Craigellachie end of town and McAllen on your way down to the mental blank, that other southern part.
The southern part. I think there's some questions coming in, which one or two is definitely going to be for Andrew here. Great question from Mark Teague. Does this distillery have a worm tub?
Yes,
Hence
it
the
does.
linkiness, yes.
Oh, well spotted indeed. So we said before, it's known as being traditional and old school, and of course, worm tubs are very much a part of that. And this was, until it was acquired by Inver House, one of the what I suppose we used to call the Diageo distilleries, acquired by the DCL, and they handed it over to SMD, Scotch Malt Distillers, in the 1930s. And Diageo were well known for being big fans of the worm tub condensers and keeping a lot of their distilleries old school. And this is one of the distilleries that benefits from that. So if you're getting that meatiness, who asked that? Mark, well done, mate. You've got a good nose and palate there.
I'm just going to have a look at the front of the label on this. It's called the Kumquat Who Came In From the Cold. Fruits and spices zing and sing for attention on the nose, with a more oily and occasionally savory diversion on the palate. A textbook aperitif. And that's why it's probably, you picked this as the first one to start with. Very well picked. Very much an aperitif. A comment from Darren Howie, 4 to 6 drops of water. You know what? I haven't added water. I haven't had
a taste yet, actually. So
I've had a small taste, and I really quite like that. That's a lovely whiskey. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of water to that. See how that performs. Of course, just for some of the basics, as I said, we'll touch on tonight. Everything we bottle, I used to be able to say that. Most of what we bottle is single cask strength, non-chill filtered, natural color. When I say there's some parts of the society I can't say that about, is that we do have our heresy releases. But this is 59.8% single cask, single malt Scotch whiskey in the juicy oak and vanilla profile. I think it's very deserving of that profile.
Darren, could I trouble you? You just made the comment, 4 to 6 drops of water. On nose or palate or both? I'm just wondering what your thoughts are there. Where did the water really improve the experience for you?
Joey says, I don't have the pack either, but I'm joining in with 10.101, Storm Cloud of Flowers to start. Nice dram.
Good to see you, Joe.
And a binary code lover's dream cask. There you go. That's the best I've got. 10101. That's pretty good. That's not going to come around very often.
I was wondering where you come. Okay, yeah, I get it now.
Rob Akers, yeah. So you don't have the pack either. Sorry, but just to pour a 35.254 and enjoy the chat. That's what we're here for. Just have a bit of a chat. For those who are joining in along, you can.
It's a good point, and we maybe should have said this at the top, but
What's at the top?
We're still at the top. But, we're going to have a bit of crack and a bit of banter and a bit of chat tonight. The drams are coming along for the ride, so if you don't have the pack at home, you can still obviously join in and let us know what you are dramming. Okay, so Alan's just chimed in and said water really opened it up on the palate.
Yeah.
You added your drops, didn't you?
I've added a few drops.
What did you think?
I think it's. I don't think it improved the nose, but I think it improved the palate. It's almost like diluted the nose a little bit beyond maybe I added too much, but it's brought the nose, it's muted the nose a fair bit. I love that zingy spiciness on the nose that I initially got,
which comes through to the palate. I love the mouthfeel. This is really oily, particularly oily spirit. All right, well,
do it.
Do it. Okay.
Got to give it a go.
Using old school whiskey, old school distillery, old school society jug.
Yeah.
I don't know how well you can see that there.
Yeah, that was dug out of Susie's office.
Yeah, well, we used to put these on the table at the society tastings back in the day,
and they'd.
Well, that brings out some fruit. Yeah, I think if you don't overwater it, just
a few drops.
Yeah.
No, as Darren was saying about just the 4 to 6 drops. Yeah.
You got to be so careful with water, folks. People say add a splash. Look, a splash can be fairly big if you're not careful about it.
You can't take it out again.
You can't take it out again, and I don't get so particular about it that you need those droppers. And I know some people are fans of the pipettes and go and drop. But yeah,
no, I don't like pipettes. I don't like using them. It makes the whole experience feel scientific.
Very scientific. It's like back in the school lab.
Yeah. And there's a time and place for that. And I think
it's called the school lab.
Yeah, it's called primary school lab. No. But I think even in whiskey, there's a time and place for it, and that could be, really critical assessment of a whiskey and what does it taste like at this proof and this proof and this proof. But at that point, a water dropper really isn't the goal either. You'd probably need a full hydrometer to work out what you want to be
Yeah.
serving it at.
And look, it's 10 years old at 59.8% as a cask strength society whiskey. You'd expect it to take a drop or two, and indeed it does.
It does, yeah. Yeah, the lovely oiliness of that, isn't it?
The mouthfeel for me is stunning.
If it was just slightly more coastal, it could be an oily and coastal almost, you know?
Slightly, yeah.
Slightly.
You'll need to remind me, my friend. What cask are we? What's the wood on this? Do you know off the top of your head?
That's first fill bourbon barrel.
First fill bourbon. Okay.
Yep. Yes. Great comments coming in. Water really opened up on the palate, says Darren Howie. Oh, sorry, no, it says Facebook user. Sorry, not everyone. I can't see everyone's names all the time. Lingers for ages. Also, someone says, and Reza says, I agree with Matt. Water dilated the nose, but opened up the palate. Yeah, I think that's really on the waterfront. The palate's fantastic with the water on that one. So I'd recommend nosing this a few times neat. Maybe adding a few drops of water, then drinking it.
And then I think that's always your rule. Always try it neat and then decide if it needs water. And that'll be different from person to person too. Very subjective thing.
Does anyone get a little aniseed on the finish?
Yes.
That's a good note. That's a good call.
Yeah.
Good call. Now you got to remember, like just again, back to basics. A lot of these casks that are bottled for the membership packs, we don't often actually see in full bottle form.
Well, we don't at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's very uncommon. We've only ever seen it once before, but these are things that you can appreciate and enjoy as society single casks, and you've got 300 mils to play with, and on your journey. And there's still a few of these packs left online, and we've still got them at the reduced price of $129.
Great gift packs, by the way, if you want to get your Christmas shopping done early.
Yeah. Goodies. Cool. I'm pretty happy with that. I always like the 48s. They always, if you recall, I opened a 48. .99. Yeah, one cask before this one. Doesn't always work out that well, I promise. About a year ago.
Yes.
Yeah, and that had that sort of like, it had a sort of a similar oily and spicy and aniseedy note to it. Old school whiskey note. The old school savory sort of note, and that was also a first fill barrel.
Look, it's an underrated distillery. It's a little known one. Inverhouse don't put it out as their own branded single malt. And I've heard around the traps, and I don't know if this is just industry gossip or not, but yeah, there's a lot of people that say that they actually can't afford to release it as a single malt because it is so highly sought after as a blending malt, because it's old school, because it's got that oiliness, because it has so much weight and character that is, to be honest, a disappearing and diminishing style of whiskey that we see. Demand for this is massive, and so they actually can command quite a premium for selling this to the blenders where it's so highly sought after. And you don't hear about that very often. So I think that's a really interesting case in point.
So this has almost become like a dressing malt.
Well,
or at least a desirable backbone.
It'll be one or the other. It'll be the dressing or it'll be the foundation.
That's very cool.
It could serve as either, couldn't it?
So this still goes into Inverhouse blends.
Well, from what I've heard around the traps, yes, that's correct. Yeah. But there's other blends and brands lining up trying to get it for their own as well.
That's very cool, though.
And now it makes sense because, as we said, it was owned by Diageo up to a point. So you can imagine Diageo would have been a major part in a lot of their blends. And when distilleries change hands and are sold, often there's quite long back-ended contracts about supply for periods after that. So you can guarantee there'll still be a lot of this going into the Diageo blends.
You know what I love is that yours has gone ever so slightly cloudy.
It has a bit, hasn't it?
Just by one shade.
No, you're quite right.
And that's the it being a non-chill filtered whiskey.
There's your oils.
And there's your oils. Adding that water to it. And normally you have to see that happen, you normally have to wait 1, 2, 3 hours of whiskey you've forgotten on your table somewhere, and you come back to it and you go, it's become all cloudy. I love seeing that happen. Especially that quickly. I'm
not familiar with the concept of forgetting a whiskey, but I'll take your word for it.
Look, it happens here all the time.
Does it?
You pour one there, you pour one over there, you pour one over here.
Yeah, but I don't forget about them.
Okay, well,
of course. But...
of course, yeah.
Have our viewers seen that photo that we're seeing on that screen just there?
Yeah, they have.
It's such a fantastic shot.
It's a beautiful shot.
Yeah. Gives you some insight into the distillery's construction. Over on the left-hand side is the new addition. And from memory, don't quote me, I think that's actually the side the still house is on these days. and you can see the original part. And this is very typical of those distilleries, those Victorian distilleries that started back then. You know, they start small, and as they expand over the years, they just get tacked onto. So yeah, you see it all there.
Yeah, it's a cool photo. It's an aerial shot, obviously, and it just gives you a sense of scale and scope of the construction there. It does look very tightly packed into everything, doesn't it?
As is often the case.
Yeah.
So anyone who's been around Strathisla will know.
Strathisla, where the stills are.
That is, and what I really love is Dalmore's another example where the building was the shape it was, and they got their stills from somewhere else, and to squeeze them in, they just cut the tops off the stills. So there's these amazing flat top stills at Dalmore. Nothing to do with trying to get a particular style or flavour of spirit. It just had to do with that's what we've got to do to get it into the building.
Yeah. That's very
You'll see
cool.
that at Cragganmore as well.
Ooh, Rob, I don't have a photo of said worm tub, but we can find one for you. I'm sure you do.
I do actually. Yeah.
And what blended whiskey does it often go into? Says Mark. I think we sort of covered that. It's sold to blending houses, and Inverhouse would use it in some of their own blends.
Inverhouse are decent blenders of their own, let alone, I mean, once you go into the Diageo stable, it could be anything, so let's not speculate. But
all right.
Nice one.
What do you say we move on to the next?
Why don't we? So second one tonight is 35.213, the Hippogriff's Hip Flask. Hippogriff, that sounds like very much like a Hogwarts kind of animal. Am I right there? Or, I've not read the books, I'm sorry. J.K. Rowling. Hippogriff?
Sorry, J.K., we've not read the books. Hippogriff.
You're not familiar? No,
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. See, when you read things like that, it's either going to be that or something from Tolkien. So
yeah,
why not tell her? This has got a bit more colour to it. Well, it's got a lot more colour, to be fair. But yeah, Rob Akers, 35. We're on the same page as you now.
So 35.213, the Hippogriff's Hip Flask.
Now that's some decent colour for a 9-year-old, isn't it?
Yeah, that is decent colour.
And that's an interesting nose.
It is Harry Potter. Sorry, thank you, Mark. It is Harry Potter. you're well ahead of the curve than we are. There you go.
Now this is a distillery that both Matt and I have a strong affinity for. We've both been there a couple of times for me. You've been there at least once or twice.
Yeah, twice. Yeah.
We both know the former master distiller there very well, who's moved on to other pastures. And this distillery is right at the top of Speyside, just outside the town of Elgin. And lovely distillery. It has a fascinating history. From memory, we should check these things before we go live. Don't quote me, but I think it was founded in about 1897, 1898, and it didn't shut down almost straight away after the crash of the early 20th century, and was silent till about 1920 when it was acquired by Macdonald Muir, who also owned a little-known distillery called Glenmorangie. And it was in the hand of Glenmorangie for about 88 years, and we were chatting about this off air. From memory, I think it was sold by Glenmorangie in about 2008. Could be wrong there by a year or two, but I think that's right.
I did a whole tasting on those dates and those timelines, and I can't remember.
Yeah. So Glenmorangie, of course, was subsequently acquired by LVMH, and at the time they decided this distillery was surplus to their plans for the brands, and it was sold to a French company whose name I can never pronounce correctly, La Martinique.
Yeah, Martinesque.
Try saying it after a few drams.
La Martinesque or something like that.
Yeah. In any event.
I don't think they can even say the name.
No.
So that's fine.
We.
Now, this is a 9-year-old. This is refill sherry. It's a refill sherry hogshead, I believe.
Now, that's fascinating because if it's 9 years old, we'll assume it was made post Glenmorangie. And
this is Grand Cool era spirit.
Exactly, yeah. Absolutely. So what's fascinating is Glenmorangie probably in the last 20, 30 years developed a bit of a reputation as being a playground for Glenmorangie. Glenmorangie would do a lot of experiments. They would try it out in Glenmurray first, and if it was a success, they'd then bring it over to Glenmorangie. But of course, this is post that period, so this is everything it's doing is off the skin of its own bat. I've just mixed my metaphors there.
The skin of its own teeth.
Yeah.
Water
nose.
back.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. earlier too by AD. What? Oh, Buckbeak was its name from the Prisoner of Azkaban book. Thank you so much, Mark.
And this is why we ask you to play along at home.
Yeah, this is why you play along at home. Thank you so much. And tasting bingo, look at the color.
Thank you, Robert.
Yes.
I'm loving the color of that.
I'm loving the nose on it.
It's an interesting nose, isn't it? There's something quite savoury about it. I'll almost say mushroomy fungal.
But I'd also say like milk arrowroot.
Truffles. Actually, there's the truffle note to it. Earthy.
Yeah, earthy, yeah. I was going to say, but yeah, a bit of milk arrowroot biscuit.
Yeah.
Like biscuity, crushed biscuit. I'm going to just read the tasting note off the front of the mini bottle here. Exuberantly sweet, fruity and spicy with a rather luscious edge. Many confectionery qualities vie for dominance with deeper, earthier tones.
Oh, right. There you go.
This guy. They don't call him Cellar Master for nothing.
Rob's calling me out. I'm not even aware of it. Have I mentioned the name of this distillery a couple of times now?
Yeah, you have.
I have?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're talking about the history of Glen Murray Distillery. We've broken our rule already.
No. I was talking about Murray Hassan when I met him down the Glen.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah.
What do you think? Oh, I see.
This guy. I'm just going to show some photos whilst we're live here. These are from my 2018 trip to the distillery. Of course, this is when Graham and Faye Cool were still at the helm there. They now moved on to Dingle over in Ireland.
Now, can I just check? In 2018, they just finished their big refurbishment and expansions, hadn't they?
Yes, they had.
So you would have seen all that when you were there.
Oh, there's still one building being done, but
okay.
they were mostly all finished then. I'm just going to remove Mark's comment there for a second. Sorry, Mark. So there's a couple of guys working at the distillery. There's Graham sticking his nose into a cask. Some port casks, if I recall, that had just arrived that they're getting ready to fill. And that's kind of one of the things about Glen Murray I've always loved is that they've had they're not afraid to experiment with cask types, and having that French ownership since 2008. If I'm going to we'll stick with that date. Having that French ownership has meant that they've had a steady supply of interesting wood for their spirit to sort of play around in, from which I'll get on to, things like that.
And you've long-term society members will have seen that. You'll have known, if you're a fan of this distillery, we have had all manner of everything under the sun come through over the last 10 to 12 years, of all sorts of different wood finishes, full-term wood maturations. They've been wine casks of almost every variety: red wine, white wine, different barrels, French oak.
I remember 3-ish years ago, we had one which was a first fill 13-year-old Chenin Blanc.
Yes.
Full maturation in a first fill Chenin Blanc. So you get some really odd casks and really interesting flavors. There's the stills on one side of the room there.
Well, that's a hard still house now because there's two of them, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, that's also double. That room is also, there's two sides to that room.
Yeah.
The spirit safe. And there's Graham lifting the lid, proving that the padlock is just there for decorative purposes. And just some of their warehouses, some of their slumbering casks. Keeps going all the way down the back there. And that's my favorite photo. Now we're talking the Warts pump. And I love the fact that it's some pretty old gear there on site. It's not like there's a lot of distilleries much more modern than Glen Murray. I wouldn't call it as old school as Balmenic as where we've come from just now.
Did we? That distillery?
Ah.
One all.
Okay, one all. You know what?
I actually like that picture because that describes what I do a lot of distilleries. I run, then I trip. It happens a lot.
All right. There we go. And so, what we have, just I wanted to show a few photos. Oh, gone too far.
Too far. Yeah.
There you go. But I'll just show a bit of what. How do I get my mouse back?
By the way, there's a little insight into what it takes to be a modern distiller these days. You need to be able to push 4 buttons, but they're color coded, so it's.
I mean,
you can get by.
As long as you remember your colors,
That's right.
Green, yellow. Oh, there's 2 green. No. Which one do I press? But yeah, so I hope you're all enjoying that 35.213 from the membership pack. If you're not, as we said, I hope you're just enjoying a dram, joining us, Andrew and I, for a bit of banter, bit of nonsense, bit of chat. You know how it goes.
No one's mentioned it, at least on the stream I'm seeing over here. I don't feel a need to add water to this. I think that's a very soft, very suitably rated and leveled.
Did I tell you the proof?
No, you didn't.
61.9.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
okay, that gives some insight into how good the spirit is in the cask, because to be 61 and to actually be softer on the palate than its predecessor speaks volumes.
Lovely, isn't it?
Mm.
But it's a totally different beast from where we've just come from.
Oh, no comparison.
It's like, I wouldn't call that oily.
No.
You know, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I just say it's very much it's a different. It's almost visceral in some ways in comparison.
Thanks for keeping score, Mark. Really appreciate that, mate, and for sharing that with everyone.
Those keeping score. I put your comment up on the screen there, Mark. That's deserving. And Rob, of course, you'll get away with that one. Smooth.
Oh, are we allowed to use the yes word?
No,
I didn't think so.
You can use
like, look at those two distilleries, completely different.
Yeah.
And if you were to hop in your car, take you probably 25 minutes to drive from one to the other, so they're not a huge way apart, and yet such completely different beasts. And that is the joy of whiskey distillation in Scotland, I find. And
not only that, what I love is that even when we're tasting that one, I mentioned that you and I had tasted 48.99, and they're totally different.
Yeah.
They could have sat next to each other, distilled on the same day into the same type of wood. And the uniqueness of the single cask. I'd love to see what a 35 would do in an ex-Armagnac Black Oak. Only you would say that, Dr. Akers.
Well, I can tell you, it works. It's bloody delicious. It wasn't one of the society tours, but I was there at the distillery in 2011 going through some warehouses, and they had exactly that. And we tried, or I tried it. I was by myself. Stunning, absolutely stunning whiskey. Works. Very versatile distillery.
Reza, that's really cool. Actually, just looked up the name of Hippogriff. Is a legendary creature, supposedly the offspring of a griffin and a mare. The griffin has the head of an eagle, claws armed with talons, and wings covered with feathers. The rest of its body being that of a horse.
They were the tasting notes for the last Macallan release, weren't they?
Yeah, Spirits Platform, we love you. I am going to try adding water to that, though. I'm going to just...
Okay,
see what happens.
I'll be keen to hear your thoughts.
Just a dash. I should have done that. Oh, well. It sort of loses that edge on the nose a bit, but way more than the first one did.
It's funny,
don't add water.
Just thinking back on society history here, but when we started doing our tastings in Australia in 2002, cask strength whiskey was so rare and almost unheard of. And I remember the very early tastings when people would first taste something that was at the time 57, 58%, and people would just go, oh, this is too hot, can't handle this, and reaching for the water. And now in today's environment and whiskey scene, we're so used to it. But to drink something that's north of 61, I think you said, wasn't it? 60, almost 61.9, 62%, and for it just to be as soft and as delicate as that, without remotely being aggressive or powerful or stringent on the palate, just speaks volumes as to how far we as consumers have come, and also giving some insight to just how far ahead of the curve the society was in jumping on this way back in 1983.
Yeah. It is fascinating to think sometimes just how far, not just, I mean, you've talked about this a fair bit. I mean, about single malt appreciation, or I should just say whiskey appreciation, has come not just internationally, but even locally as well. I mean, if you look at 1983, when the society was founded, all the distillers that Anne Dana and Pip Hills were buying spirit off thought they were just mental. Why would you buy single cask strength whiskey? It's like that stuff's meant to be diluted and blended always. Don't worry about selling it as gallons of cask strength whiskey. It was, and then as Pip says, both he said in person to me, and he said in his book as well, you'd have to be he said that most distilleries, it took them 5 to 10 years to work out what he was even doing.
Yeah.
But that appreciation has changed a lot, even locally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which you've shaped. The whole society, the society's shaped.
Well, I just remember hosting tastings in the very early 2000s, and then certainly with society, even in 2005, 2006. And we would spend a large chunk at the start of the tasting night having to explain what cask strength was, and having to explain to people, yes, that most of everything that you're used to drinking up to this point has been 40%, and we had to explain why it was higher in ABV and what a single cask meant. It was people walk into events now and just know these things. Even relative newbies know about this. So very, very different knowledge base now, which is good because it means when we start a tasting, we can actually just get straight into drinking rather than having to spend 15 minutes explaining what it is we're on about.
Alan says, I think Abelard Abuna helped popularize cask strength for the masses.
Yeah, that's not a bad call.
I think a lot of whiskies did, but I think that one is a core part of it.
Between that and Glenfarclas 105, the two of those certainly did that job.
Was there anything like that in the ex-bourbon cask realm that helped popularize it?
I don't really recall something like that coming along until relatively recently, like the Glenlivet Nadura, when that first came out.
That would have been part of it, yeah.
Now, that was 2010, 11, thereabouts, so it's actually not that long ago. I don't really remember there being a branded cask strength where it was a consistent part of a core range portfolio at the time.
I do remember Abelard's marketing of the Abuna having to be very selling it, or like as in like the early. This is like the origin whiskey.
Yeah, they sold it based on an incredible story that was so untrue, and yet it was so evocative and romantic and a wonderful story.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, that was a whiskey that it didn't need a story. I think it spoke for itself. Those early batches were just so tasty. You didn't need a backstory. You let someone have a sip and went, wow, this is good.
But thankfully, cask strength whiskey has come a long way, and that's why the society could be filling that gap for you right now if you're not a member. And I know there are some non-members watching tonight, so I really appreciate you tuning in and discovering more about whiskey, those who've got the pack or those who are sharing it, or in fact, Darren, your friends tonight, and you've mentioned to me a few times you've had a few friends around tonight, and you've just said everyone loving these. Really appreciate that, Darren. It's great to hear. There's two very diverse whiskeys and very different. My tip, my final little drinking tip on that one, don't have water. I made that mistake. It's fine.
That finish just lingers for so long.
I was about to say, I'm still chewing that whiskey.
Chewy. I was about to say,
holding on to it for a while there.
Yeah. Ah, nice one.
Okay.
That's why we like it.
Get on it, non-members. There's a unique bottle to win. Oh, Rob, I need to hire you. Look at this. Sitting right there on my table. Can we see that on camera? Good. 64.97, a sunny day in late summer. It says on the front of the bottle, exclusive partner bar cask, 9-year-old single cask from distillery 64.97. That was never sold to members. There's a bottle sitting in my office, and I'm going to send to a new member who joins or an existing member who refers between now and the end of July. It's been running for a few weeks, the promos, a lot of members joining, trying to get vie for a bottle of that. I'm going to give that away. I'm giving that away. I'm sending that to someone. If I don't send it to someone, I'll open it. I'll drink it. Too bad. You know what? I'm going to send it to someone instead. So just, jump on the Society website if you want to join as a member. If you're not a member yet, now's a good time. Give that away. There you go. I'm going to leave that there as a reminder, a visual reminder, whilst we tuck into the third round.
And just tease me.
Trust me, it's just as hard for me. It's been sitting in my office for 4 weeks.
Hey, I know the story.
Okay.
Whiskey number 3. We're going to take a trip to a slightly different part of... now, some textbooks erroneously describe this as a Speyside whiskey. It ain't. It's a Highland whiskey. It's too far east to be considered a Speysider, in my opinion. Fortunately, the textbooks agree with me.
Most.
Now, we said this was oily and coastal, didn't we?
It is. So
it is. I'd agree with that, having on the nose.
It's interesting. We see quite a few 66s out of the lightly peated category. We see a few in the peated category. We don't see many in oily and coastal. And so that means that it's just a different profile to the spirit entirely that is worth exploring.
It is fascinating, though, isn't it? Because I know, and I'm guilty of this, when you see the Society's flavour profiles and you see a whiskey that is described as oily and coastal, I just assume it must be a coastal distillery. It must be an island distillery. And, of course, here we are, a location that's arguably almost as far as as you can get in Scotland from any body of water in any direction.
Yeah.
It's inland a little bit.
The same could be said about deep rich and dried fruits. I mean, we've had some deep rich and dried fruit whiskies that are recharred hogsheads, that are refill hoggies, that are refill barrels even, that not every deep rich and dried fruits whiskey is immediately a sherry cask or immediately
good
a
call.
hot pipe. And it's the same sort of thing you see, is that it's the flavor is the focus, not where the distillery is located or what that cask type is. It's focusing on flavor is most important. And this is not a coastal distillery. Love the nose on that.
That is
the nose on 66s.
It is, again, I'll say it again, it's an underrated distillery. And you know, it was about 10 years ago that the owners at the time brought out the first official OB, official bottling, which was met with widespread indifference amongst consumers. It didn't really light any fires.
No.
It was...
That wasn't the traditional.
Yeah, it was renowned at the time because they brought it out. It was 46% unchill filtered, all those things, and it just, I don't know, there was something about it that didn't quite gel. It was a nice whiskey without being a fantastic whiskey, and yet when you taste it in a single cask, and I spent an afternoon with the manager going through the warehouse, tasting all sorts of stuff, and it is just, when you taste this, the single cask goodness, it is so good, and a lovely distillery. Wonderful story behind it, of course. It was part of the guy that owned, William Teacher. Teachers, Mr. William Teacher. And this was the backbone of the Teacher's blend, along with one or two other distilleries that were nearby. In fact, everyone's favourite Glendronach was another one that contributed greatly to that. And being a distillery that wasn't on Islay and needing a peated whiskey for his blends, decided to make a good chunk of that at this distillery. So this distillery, for a good chunk of the year, actually makes what you might call a lightly to medium peated whiskey for a mainlander. And just to put some numbers on that, I know like lots of people like to hang on their hat on the ppm of the phenols in the malt, and this one sometimes will get up to about 14 to 15 parts per million phenols. So those of you who know what I'm talking about will nod and go, oh yeah, now I understand. If you don't know, don't worry, we'll talk about it some other time.
Darren's mate, Mike, says, it smells like I'm sniffing caramel at the beach.
Oh, good call.
You know, that's awesome. That's an awesome tasting note, Mike. That's really bang on. It's like there's a sweet sort of caramel chews, a little bit of coastal caramel
toffee note for me. Toffee, and I get your coastal maritime note at the beach. Absolutely. Sensational. Actually, Columbine chews.
You know what I'm getting as well? Just the slightest bit of dentist chair.
Right.
You know that's I don't know how to describe it. It's not quite iodine. It's not quite medicinal, but it's just the slightest bit of like dentist's chair, if you like.
Minty fresh.
Minty. Yeah, a little bit of mint. Maybe it's minty fresh.
Is this a bourbon barrel?
This is a refill bourbon barrel.
All right. Well, there's your mint.
Yeah. Second fill, sorry. Second fill bourbon barrel. Yeah. Mark, do I recall Matt saying there were not as many 66s being released for the 2020 year remainder? Not as many. That's a good call. I probably said that in one of my lives. It's probably true. We've had a string of a lot of great 66s, and it's always in waves. It's always in waves, like all distillery codes. Well, not all codes, for obvious reasons, of ones that no longer exist. But I'm going to just, Andrew and I will take us through some of these photos here. There's one of the old buildings.
What you can just see behind those casks, I believe, is the railway. This was a distillery that actually had its own railway siding off the main branch line, specifically brought to the distillery for obviously the delivery and the departure of all the goods from the distillery. The train line is still there, no longer in use, of course, but nice little insight there into how the distilleries used to operate. Of course, there are other distilleries around Speyside that also had branch lines, and the train lines have long since been ripped up, Tamdhu being a good example of that, and all the other train lines that used to go through the old Speyside Way. But there's evidence of it still when you go to this place.
Iona says, Liquorochrome.
Oh, yeah.
That's the word, isn't it? That's amazing.
Oh, you've so reminded me of falling off my skateboard. Oh.
Liquorochrome. Maybe that's the word I was looking for. That's fantastic.
That is a great call.
Oh, that is actually a great call.
That's worthy of a prize.
That's worthy of a prize. Iona, I'm sending you a prize. So I'll show a few other photos. There's the I love this photo because there's the still house, of course. But I'm not. I'll see if I can.
Have you got a photo down at ground floor level?
I do, but I
Okay.
don't.
Ah, right, all right.
But you can just make out.
Yes, that's what I was going to point to.
The old the coal fired furnaces, which was the second last distillery
second last distillery in Scotland to still be powered by coal, and that was removed in, I'm going to say 2008.
No.
No, was that the other one? Was that
the other one? Yeah,
Glendronach did that. Okay.
Yeah,
2006.
2006, I think is about right.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm terrible with years, but look, I mean, I think this is very cool to see. And then we'll keep. And there's look at that. You know what? I only threw this in for you, Scott Fitzsimons. I know you're not watching right now, but when you do later on, this one's for you, mate. There's a steam engine. All sorts of goodies, and that was the most boring photo I could possibly take, but I had to include it.
Okay, but let's give it some context.
Let's give it some context.
You've got the bottom of the malt bin there, and then mental blank, whatever term they use for transporting the malt off the conveyor belt down below.
The malt bells.
Yes. That inclined thing you're just seeing in the top left-hand corner is the bottom corner of the malt bin. So the malt gets stored in these massive silo bins and gets dropped into that little chute that then disappears into the next stage of production.
Another one of Darren's mates, who's called Matt, says it's boot polish in a military barracks.
Oh, okay. Now, those of you who were military at all, or even did cadets at school, parade gloss.
Parade gloss.
Who remembers the parade gloss? That's a good call.
That's exactly a good call. It is a very good call.
What was that main brand of shoe polish we used to get? I'm still getting in Australia.
Wapoo?
No, the other one. Black tin.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Wapoo. Not important. Anyway, they were the ones that made parade. Help us out, folks, if you can. I'm not going to sleep tonight now trying to remember that.
If you don't say this in the comments, folks, Andrew's going to scour every Woolworths between his house and mine trying to find this particular boot polish. So if you can please work out what polish it was. Kiwi?
Kiwi, thank you.
Kiwi there.
Kiwi parade gloss. Mr. Akers to the rescue.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. That's the one. Love a trip hazard next to the fire exit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very OHS comment.
Occupational health and safety in 1854 really wasn't that important. But,
and evidently not now either. Nugget? Oh, that's a good. That's also was it Nugget? Was it Kiwi?
Nugget was another Kiwi. That was just regular black polish. But if you're in the military and you had to shine your shoes, you had to get the parade gloss.
There you go. And there's another shot of Distillery 66. There you go.
Now, those of you who are long-term members, if you hunt back through our bottling lists and go back to about 2011, you'll find we wrote a feature profile on this distillery. So go through all your old bottling lists.
2000 and what?
I think it was 11. We did it.
There was also a feature in 2017 in Outturn 17, which is going back a little bit as well. So, or maybe in 18. No, 17. And
now there's some real old kit there.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Isn't that just fantastic?
Now look at the valve wheels on the left-hand side of the operator there. Still actually using valve wheels to turn things on and off.
That's incredible. Yeah.
One reason why when this distillery brought out its list, its official bottling, they called it traditional. It really does still have some old kit.
I love distillers that even if they don't use them, they still keep some of that old kit there.
Yeah,
part of the aesthetic, part of the beauty of it. That's a very Moorish whiskey.
That's nice.
It's very Moorish.
Yeah.
So it's 11 years old, oil and coastal, 58.5%. Fried Padron Peppers Tupper. Try saying that after 10 drams or 5 drams.
I'd struggle after one, I think.
No. 66.121, 11-year-old oil and coastal, 100 mils in your membership box there. I've added just a bit of water to mine. See how that reacts.
Noticing that. That caramel that we got on the nose and the toffee at the beach that one of our colleagues chimed in with, it follows through onto the palate. I get that on on the mouth as well.
Lovely. I think you're thinking of the peppermint concentrate stuff we add to the water at the dentist, man. It's a kind of unique flavor. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Peppermint concentrate that's in the water. A watered down peppermint concentrate. I know it's a very specific reference, but I hope that makes sense. Iona, yes, big smiles. You've won. I'm sending you a prize. That was a really good call. 2 drops of water, gentlemen, says Matt Adams. I added about 2 or 3 drops equivalent, maybe a dash more. And I think that's actually done it favors. It's not a super strength whiskey, 58.5%. And I know I say that 58.5% is a very high proof, but it's still not 65.4 or something silly. That's lovely. That's lovely.
I don't know if it's the power of suggestion or some strange psychosomatic thing, but you were talking about dentist chairs and all the rest of it, and peppermint at the dentist. And I'm now, having just swallowed that, and the finish has been on my palate for about 40 seconds. That finish has now got me. You know what word is coming into my mind? Ipana.
Ipana.
Now, does that mean anything to you?
No.
Oh, showing his age.
No.
And I'm showing mine.
No.
Who remembers Ipana? So Ipana was a brand of toothpaste.
Oh, right.
Very big in the 60s, 70s, and just into the early 80s. And then Colgate came along and did a Diageo and smashed it. But if you remember Ipana toothpaste, that's what I'm getting on the finish of this. Help me out here, viewers, if you remember Ipana. I'm feeling alone all of a sudden.
I don't remember Ipana, sorry. A bit of pepper on the palate with water.
So, what were your thoughts? You added a few drops. What did you think?
I thought it was really nice with water. It's one of those whiskeys that works both ways.
Okay.
It doesn't really need it on the nose, but it's lovely on the palate.
Oh, tell you what, just adding that water, my gosh, you should have seen the oils explode on that.
That is not something that happens with ordinary whiskey.
Mm.
If you take a bottle of whiskey that's 40% commercially available and you add drops of water to it, just plops in there.
Gee, he brings out machine oil on the nose.
Oh, that's a good call. Very good call. Machine oil, yeah.
Singer sewing oil as well, which is the same stuff.
I've got a bottle of that.
Yeah?
yeah. Just for nosing.
Well, I was about to
Just for
say,
nosing purposes only. Yeah, singer oil. Yeah, it's not your typical 66 though, is it?
Gosh, no.
No. And that's why it's even compared to other Society 66s that are often quite, dare I say, a little bit more brash, a little bit more peated, and a little bit more sort of like confrontational. This is a bit more nuanced. I love it. It's very nice.
I'll tell you what water did for me on the palate was brought out the cereal.
Mm.
Really malty cereal coming through on
Ethereal cereal?
Ethereal cereal?
Yeah, there you go. Cool. Wow.
What a lovely drop.
That is lovely. Whew.
Well, we got the order right, I think.
I think we did get the order right, yeah.
I'm happy with the order we did those in.
And that was the last picks I was going to show there. That one's not mine. Sorry. And but the I had to include it because it was some of the more of the bit more modern side of the distillery. And
it just looks like the hot water tank, is it? It's not a fermenter.
No,
it's not a washback.
That's just a hot water tank.
Yeah.
But anyway, there you go. So hope you've all had a kick out of this as much as we have, because I've been walking around with this box at tastings for months, wondering what these whiskies would taste like, and now I've got a chance to open them because we're sharing them virtually with you. However, I'm going to make 2 last little announcements from my end for tonight. One is just that last reminder: 6497 could be yours. You'll be the only member, not just in Australia, but in the world with a bottle of that. Which is very cool.
Very cool.
The second thing is, of course, we have some events coming up. Restrictions permitting.
What's this space?
Big asterisks next to this. Both in Sydney, Brisbane, and
did we square Canberra away?
Almost.
Okay.
Almost. But we've got some events coming up around the country. We're going to kick off in Sydney first.
The Speyside tour bus is departing.
Speyside tour bus is departing, and before that, we have 3 very small activations, and the pop-up bar returns to Archie Rose.
You use the activation word.
3 very small events with Archie Rose and
In case you haven't worked it out by now, my job at these events is really just to trip him up as we broadcast. That's all I'm here for. Yeah.
He gave me nightmares for years. Look, and now we can be friends. But look, it was great that we're going to be working again with Archie Rose. If you're a member of the society and you show your membership card at Archie Rose, you get that. My name's not even on that one. That's just a blank one. But if you show your membership card at Archie Rose, you get a. Here we go.
No, my wallet's over there. It's out of reach.
Too bad. You're on live. If you show your membership card at Archie Rose Bar, he's going to do it anyway. You get 20% off all your drinks, and that's not just society pours. The society selection there is fantastic, by the way. But that's actually off. If you can't find your card, your membership is revoked. But it's you get 20% off all your drinks at Archie Rose, which is fantastic. So you're getting gin and tonics for like $7 something. Anyway, whatever the price is. It's a great bar. They do their
I can't find my card, but the good news is I'll get a free coffee tomorrow.
Oh, cool! You got enough punch cards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's always exciting. No, but it's true that if you Archie Rose has the widest discount for members, and 20% is absurd. That's like that's absurdly good value at that bar, and they encourage bar bookings at the moment just for.
Makes sense. Do the right thing.
Yeah. Don't try and just turn up. Go to their website, just book in for a bar booking. It's $30 to book in for a bar booking, but you get that in drinks credit. So it's easy.
Yep. Jordan, yes, that is a great perk of membership.
It is.
Well observed.
All the membership, all the partner bars all have their different offerings, but the Archie Rose one is the one I'm talking about because they're the next events that we're going to be doing in August, and then the Grand Tourist Bayside in early September. So keep an eye on the website, keep an eye on our Facebook page, keep an eye on our Facebook group, keep an eye on your emails. And that's all I wanted to just.
And I just follow up by saying, bear in mind, we are having to roll with the punches a bit as announcements and restrictions and things take place. And also the venues. I mean, it's all very well to be able to say you can get together, but if the venue then has something imposed on its numbers, we've got to roll with those punches as well. So please do be understanding as we try and accommodate all the things that are pushing us in every other direction.
And just add on to Andrew's point, and those changes, as you're all seeing, are sometimes happening with as little as 24 hours notice.
Yeah. So
fingers crossed, and keep washing your hands. Stay safe. Thank you so much. That's all I wanted to say tonight. Thank you.
To our Victorians, we're thinking of you.
To our Victorians, indeed. I should hold a glass when I do that. And thank you, everyone, for that. And I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Oh, thanks, Darren. Very much appreciate the time out and great drams. Awesome. You know what? We're glad we could provide something for you, whether you're locked down, whether you're just having some friends around, whatever you're doing tonight, and enjoying a few drams. Thank you so much from Andrew and myself.
It's a good way to spend a Thursday night. Cheers, Slange, and thank you, sir.
Slanger. Clink. Clink. There it is. And we'll see you all for the August virtual tasting, which is going to be coming in August, predictably. The date of which escapes my brain just this moment, but we'll announce it all on the website, and you'll see it in August outturn.
It is in the outturn, yeah.
It is in outturn. Yeah. It's a really exciting August outturn. Andrew and I've just put the lid on it just this week, which it's a goodie. It's a goodie.
Every outturn's a goodie, but sometimes there are goodier ones than others. And
goodier than others,
yep,
indeed.
Yep.
Thanks so much, everyone. See you all soon.
Bye. Cheers. For now.